Environmental space clearing is clearing energy that gets stuck in your physical environment. Just kind of like spider webs and dust gets stuck in spider webs in the corners of your home or in your business. And energy does too. And it's more prevalent when there's been somebody sick in the home. That energy will permeate a room or even an complete environment, and it can actually make other people sick. The only way that I can actually access my clients is to go to their location. And I do energy space clearing in homes, and I do energy space clearing in businesses. In one particular case, I went to a business in a large city close to me, and I was engaged by a businessman who was moving into a new location. It was quite a large location too. And I started doing the clearing in the location. And as I was moving through the energy, I discovered there was a lot of information that I was picking up psychically about the energy space as I was clearing it. And so afterwards, I just kind of gathered that information. And afterwards, I talked to the businessman who was moving in and who had brought me in. And I said to him, I said, you know, there was a gentleman in that particular office who was very overweight and unhealthy, and he always had body odor. And it felt like he smoked cigars. And there was another gentleman in an office next to him who was extremely nervous and anxious and really worried about money. But I said, when I walked by the back door on the back end of the property, you could tell there was things that had gone out of that door that were being stolen. There was a lot of thievery. And the businessman looked at me, and there was a few other things I brought up. I didn't know the history of the place. I just knew he brought me in to clear the energy before he moved his business in. And it was so hilarious because he started laughing and he said, this place, they went bankrupt, the last group that were here. And that's why I brought you in, because I didn't want that to happen to me. This is a spiritually enlightened businessman who knew energy imprints. And he didn't want it to affect his staff and his business that way. When I'm doing an energy clearing, I actually use very few tools. I use myself and I use my instincts, but I use incense. I like to burn incense because it is actually really clears the energy very, very well. And this is Tibetan Buddhist incense. Tibetan incense, it's hand rolled, and I only use the purest and the best. And another tool that I use is a Buddhist, these are called tingsha bells. And the tingsha bells clear space, they unblock energy that's cluttering a corner or a wall or a space. And they also will clear your chakras as well. So the other tool that I will use is candles. I will take candles, and I will often use sea salt. Pure sea salt, because sea salt absorbs energy. The most common use for sea salt is in a new home that's just been built, where the workmen have thrown their coffee cups in between the joists in the wall, or if somebody was working on that home and they were ill and they kept coming to work, and that will imprint in where they worked, the area that they worked within. So, so I use the candles, the incense, the tingsha bells, and I use sea salt. An experience that I had with a home versus a business, I went in to see a lady. She was having a really hard time. She was divorced, and she had 2 children. One was a young girl who cried every night, cried herself to sleep, and her young son, who was about 13, was extremely rebellious and angry. And she said, you need to help me. I need help because I don't know what to do. So I went in and I cleared the energy in her home. Now, her kids didn't know I was going to be there. They were at school. We cleared the energy in the space, and I picked up a ton of energy around her daughter in her bedroom. And I picked up when I came down the stairs that her son or somebody had fallen down the stairs. It turned out it was her son at some point and really badly hurt his back. So I did an energy clearing and a healing on his back while I was there. And I also cleared his room, and I cleared the whole rest of the house. We moved a couple of plants that were kind of inhibiting energy flow in the space, and then I left. She called me about a week later, and when her kids got home from school that day, they said, Mom, they walked in the door, did you clean up the house? And all that was really different physically in the property was we had moved a couple of plants. That was it. And about a month later, the 3 of them went on a trip. They went to the Caribbean together. She was able to travel with her kids. Her daughter quit crying and having nightmares, and her son was no longer the angry young man. What had happened was the divorce had taken place. Her husband had lived with them in the home. And he was very manipulative. And when he left the property, all of the anger and the frustration that had taken place while he was still there was still imprinted there. And it was impacting all of them in the home. And it changed the dynamic of the husband's interaction with the family as well, the ex-husband. It became more pleasant and they became more co-parent. So it changed the whole dynamic. Environmentally clearing your space can be essential. Scheduling me to come out for an energetic space clearing, of course, I'm going to be traveling to get to you. It doesn't really matter where you are, but there is a proximity. I like working in either of the, anywhere pretty much in Alberta I will go. But there's a cost incurred that we set at the time, and it would require some appointment setting, and it depends on the size of your property, how long the actual, and where you are, how long it would actually take. But it's all got to be arranged by appointment, so it's just a matter of calling the office and talking to me.